Hey there everyone, this is Victor with VictorVectorJKU, and today Project Vector is finally going to get her growth spurt. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so just got the packages in the mail today. FedEx dropped by with a little gift for me, so let's go ahead and take a look and see what we got. Alright, so I went with the JKS JSPEC J-Konnect 3.5 inch lift. I thought it looked like a pretty solid kit. I think we'll go ahead and start off with a quick little walk around of the Jeep, show you guys where it sits currently, and we'll be able to compare to afterwards. So yeah, so this is my 2015 JKU Willys. Basically everything is all stock on the exterior. Measured everything yesterday, so I measured from the center line of the wheel up to the bottom edge of the fender flare. Left hand side was 20.25 inches and the right hand side was 20 inches even. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and take a look at what all the boxes hold. So I've gotten 4 of the 5 boxes that I'm expecting so far. So tomorrow I'm going to be receiving the shocks. It's the only thing that I haven't yet gotten. But one thing I want to kind of do is just highlight the quality of the packaging that the JKS JSPEC suspension systems come in. They definitely have a lot of quality in mind when they're making their kits, and obviously the product, if they're putting time into the packaging, they're also putting time and thought into what they're actually manufacturing. They take pride in the quality that they're delivering, and they want to make sure it's a good looking kit when you receive it, versus parts that are just shipped loose in a box and dinged up and scratched and the coatings are all torn up already before you even throw it on the Jeep. That's what the trail's for. So yeah, so let's go ahead and open this up. So this is the first box that I received. So this guy here, so like I said, quality packaging. They got this really nice thick dense foam in here. So the first thing, so I already opened this guy up and I did pulled the instructions out. They actually supply, you'll see this in this other box, they supply a nice little envelope that has the instructions, some stickers, and some other things in it. So we'll go and pull it off to the side here real quick. So yeah, so this first kit comes with your hardware. You have, I think this is the front track bar relocation bracket. You have your drag link for doing the steer over conversion. You have your lower control arms for the rear, lower control arms for the front, along with your rear track bar support. And then also underneath there, you have the 2 3-inch front bump stops. We'll go and break into this other box. Again, same quality packaging, nice to see. So this one here, we have this nice JKS JSPEC equipped sticker for the window. But yeah, so this is the envelope that I was talking about that they supply the instructions in. So yeah, so you can see this one has 2 JSPEC equipped stickers. Kind of cool, they're a little bit raised, kind of a gel, kind of vinyl, so that's pretty cool. And then again, have more instructions on the install kit. This one's actually in color, so that's nice. I'll have to review this one still. Go and slip this stuff off to the side here. And then, so this guy, we have our adjustable track bar, we have our rear bump stops, we have our front sway bar disconnects, the JKS quick disconnects, and then I believe this is the front track bar relocation bracket, and then we have a couple more hardware boxes. Then the last of the 3 packages from JKS is going to be the springs. This guy out. Alright, so we got our front and rear coil springs. These are let's see, can't remember if they're progressive. I think it's a 2-stage spring. So it has two coil rates here. You have the firmer coil rate and the softer coil rate for on-road ride quality, and then your off-road ride quality. So got those 4 in there. Again, well separated. They have a cardboard divider in here, so it keeps everything from banging into each other. So that's really nice. So that's the unboxing. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna get this Jeep up on some jack stands and see what I can get done tonight. Alright guys, so first step in the instruction manual says to remove the lower track bar bolt while it's still on the ground, so we're going to go ahead and get that guy off. So you might wonder why that was so easy. I already actually loosened it. So what they say is to maintain the flag nut and the bolt. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to go and replace those guys back in here, that way I don't lose them. I'm just going to get that guy started and call it good. Next thing, raise up the axle, put jack stands underneath. So I'm going to go and do that next. Alright guys, so got the Jeep up on jack stands now. And I got the tires off. Now if you notice, I got my my tires I took off underneath the rig. So there is a reason for that. And I know some of you probably like, man, I take my tires off, what am I supposed to do with them to take up space and everything? I always throw my tires underneath the frame rail. And that gives you just a second point of security. And then also, what I do is I throw my lug nuts right in the center cap too. So that way I don't have to worry about looking for them later. I know exactly where they are. They're going to stay there until I go to throw the tires back on. So next step, we are going to detach two 10mm nuts up here for the handbrake. So I'll go and pull this guy out of the way, and then I'm going to replace all of my nuts or bolts back to where they go. That way I don't lose track of where they came from. Alright guys, so the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to remove the 10mm bolt from the brake line. Pull that bracket away, and then again, let's go ahead and replace that bolt right back there. That way we don't have to worry about losing it. And then using one of these trim removal tools, we'll pop that guy in behind here, and we'll pry this guy away. Get that brake line free. So that gives us a little extra play here, so that way we don't put any strain on the brake line here when we lower the axle down. Next we're going to go ahead and get our lower shock mount bolts off. It's going to be an 18mm on both ends. Alright, our top shock mounts are going to be 16mm. And catch that shock when it comes flying down at you. Go and set that to the side. Then again, we're going to want to maintain this hardware, so we're going to go ahead and reinstall it along with what we already reinstalled, the lower shock mount bolt as well. Yeah, for me, I always wear eyes and ears if I'm doing anything that's loud, and then also gloves. So be safe so you can keep on jeeping and hitting the trail. Got this side done, then we'll go ahead and repeat to the other side. Alright, next thing we got to do is remove the wheel speed sensor clips that are right here. There's two of them. So we'll use that trim removal tool again. So we'll go ahead and do that both sides. And then we'll go ahead and remove our upper and lower sway bar links. So it's going to be 18mm both sides. And of course I don't have an 18mm wrench. We'll go ahead and get that guy out of there. And then again we'll go ahead and replace our hardware. Just keep good hands on it. The upper side, go ahead and get that guy positioned, and then again 18mm up on top. Alright, I'll go and move that sway bar link out of the way. Oh, got the sway bar links removed. Now, for your installation, you may not need to remove sway bar links from the sway bar itself. What the instructions call out for doing is actually drilling in another hole for the sway bar link to be mounted higher on this bracket right here. So what they actually do is they say measure it up 1 1/4 from center, and you're going to punch and drill a new hole there. But what my plan is, I'm actually going to cut and weld my sway bar links so that they're the length that I need them to be, and maintain this stock location for mounting. So that's what my plan is. You don't have to do that, but that's what I want to do. Alright, so next step they say is go and lower down the axle low enough so the springs can be removed. So what we're going to do is bring it down nice and slow, make sure we're not hanging up on any wires anywhere. So we want to keep an eye on our brake linkage and the two wires on either side of the axle here for the wheel speed control. And then also the brake lines as well. So I can see my springs are good and free there, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it good. I'm gonna get in there and go and pull them out. Alright, and we need to maintain our upper spring retainer. So we're gonna hold on to that guy, and we'll grab our new springs and throw them in. Repeat this for the other side over here too. So I decided to bring the axle a little bit lower, just to make sure I had plenty of room to get this taller spring in. One thing I forgot to keep an eye on was the breather hose here. So fortunately he just sort of popped off. It didn't damage anything. So make sure you keep an eye on that guy if you're drooping that axle extra far. So next we'll go ahead and get our retaining boot installed on top. And we want to note that for these guys it's a dual rate coil spring. So it's got the stiffer rate below and the softer rate above. The softer rate goes to the top. So we'll go ahead and slap this guy on in. So we're going to start off on the top and set them down. So actually I have plenty of droop right now, so I'm going to go and bring them up just a little bit. Just so the spring kind of holds himself in place. That way I don't have to bounce between both sides. Alright, here we go. Alright, then we'll go ahead and raise the axle up a little bit so the axle is supporting the springs. And now one thing to note here, we do not need to worry about the clocking of the spring for the rear. There's no pocket for the lower part of the spring to lock into like there is on the front, but when we get to the front we do need to be conscious of that. So, alright guys, up next we have the rear bump stop extensions. So these guys are going to be going on, so I'm doing a 3-inch lift. So this is the 2-inch lift orientation, and they say the offset part goes forward, so this little mounting tab here goes backwards. So that's for the 2.5-inch lift. It's a 2-inch block, but I'm doing a 3.5-inch lift, so we're going to do a 3-inch configuration. We're going to use the bolt pack J106, so we're going to go ahead and install those guys next. So I'm going to go ahead and put the bolts through first, set that guy into place. We'll go ahead and get our washers and nuts coming in from underneath here. There we go. And then they call out to torque these guys down to 20 foot-pounds. Now, if you're doing the 2.5-inch lift, you have access to the top pretty easy. But for this one, I don't really, so I'm just going to go ahead and do these hand tight as good as I can. And it's a 1/2-inch wrench. You can also use a 13 to help you in case you don't have a second set of standard wrenches. Alright, call that one good. Okay, good to go. Alright, go ahead and do the same on the other side. Guys, so next thing I did was I put the track bar reinforcement bracket in underneath here. So this guy required some malleting to get him up in place. And then what I did was I put the track bar relocation bracket on after that. And I went ahead and drop the bolt through here just to make sure everything is lined up properly. And then what I did was I took a chalk crayon and I just ran around everywhere that I'm going to be needing to put welds up for the reinforcement bracket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up cleaning that stuff up. So I think I'm going to call it quits for tonight. So we'll see you guys in the morning. Morning guys. So we're back at it. I just finished cleaning up the axle where I'm going to be welding on the reinforcement bracket for the track bar. So you can see I came through and I cleaned up here on the sides of this original track bar mount, also on this side, and then also around on the back side here I also cleaned up right over in here. So that's where all the weld contacts are going to be. And so what I was talking about yesterday is this SEM product 40773 zinc weld. So basically what this is a weld through primer with a zinc content in it, and basically so that'll allow for everything to be kind of primed before I end up welding. So if I have any areas that I can't get to after I finish welding and I start painting it, that way I don't have any exposed areas of metal. So gonna go ahead and slap some of that on here. I already cleaned and prepped it with some acetone, so should be good to go. So that's coat one on the axle. I'll come back in a few minutes and do a second coat. I think it's a dry time of 3 to 5 minutes, and then 20 minutes after that we can weld it up. So I'm gonna go spray some on our bracket and get that guy prepped up, and then we'll come back and hit this guy in a few minutes. Alright, so I got the bracket and the axle painted now. I've got the bracket mounted up in its location where it needs to be. I got the jack supporting it, so really it's a tight fit, so it kind of sets itself in a location, but I want to make sure this backside is nice and snug up to the axle too, because if you have a gap, it's going to be more difficult to weld. I just want to make sure it's nice and tight up on the backside, or on the front side of the axle. And then what I did was I took the bolt that goes through here, made sure it aligned right, and then if I needed to, I just sort of pounded it left, right, up, down to make it so the hole's nice and lined up. Got my ground for my welder set up, got my battery disconnected, positive and negative, just to make sure I don't do any damage to any of the electrical system while I'm welding. I'm going to go ahead and throw my gloves on, put my helmet down, and start tacking this guy into place. So I finished welding up the track bar reinforcement bracket. Then what I did, actually, I went over the entire axle and I put a fresh coat of paint on it. Next up, what we have is the track bar relocation bracket. The little spacer that goes and drops right in through here. Well, actually, it'll come up through. Keep it from crushing in here when we're torquing that down. So that's bolt pack J103. Also, the additional 3/8 bolt, nut, and washers that go through this hole and this hole when you're using the reinforcement bracket. That was located in the high steer kit. Otherwise, everything else was included in this one. So we're going to go ahead and install this relocation bracket. So we'll go ahead and drop him in place. Set the track bar there. Pulled the bolt out of the track bar, so I'm going to go ahead and start using that guy, or use that guy for this factory mount. We're going to put this tab in here. We'll go ahead and put this flag nut on the back side. Just go ahead and hand start it for now. Next up is going to be installing our 3/8 hardware. Over here, we're going to be installing this with the bolt to the inside, facing outwards. Through both of these holes. That way we don't run into clearance issues with the end of the bolt hitting the track bar. Alright, reinstall our washers and nuts on the back side. Now, one thing I just noticed there, so I had one that was a prevailing nut and one that was a nylock nut. So the nylock is going to go over here on the front part, whereas the prevailing torque will be on this one. That's going to be kind of tight clearance to get into this one, so I'm going to need my hands to be free, I think. Alright, got it. Definitely gotta say, it'd be a lot easier not having that coil spring in there to do that first, so. Next up, I'm gonna put the U-bolt in place. And its hardware. So I'll wrap just right around the axle tube there, up through there, grab our washers, nuts, again, hand tight. Alright, with that, we can go and start tightening it all down. Alright, for the U-bolts, you want to kind of tighten them evenly. That way the U-bolt's kind of evenly centered, so tighten each one back and forth. One last guy I almost forgot, this little front one up here. Alright, so our 3/8 hardware is going to go to 40 foot-pounds, so we'll go and start off with that. Alright, so I decided to go with the extension on this one, so I'm going to have to reach this from the other side, because the the bolts are too closely placed for me to be able to get my wrench on it, so go ahead and get this front guy next. Alright, next we got 65 foot-pounds for the U-bolts. And this guy's going to be 125, so my torque wrench only goes up to 100, so I'll get it as far as I can. Then I'm going to have to check this later. I'm going to go up to an O'Reilly's and rent a larger torque wrench. But at least for now I can get this guy close. Alright, there's 100. Alright, so that is it for this guy. We'll wait to put this the hardware for the track bar to go in after we get the Jeep back down on the ground. Next is going to be our brake relocation brackets. Now I still don't have my shocks in, I haven't got my sway bars done yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to install the extension bracket to the brake line, and I'm going to leave the frame mount off for now. So what you need is the brackets. They are side specific, so make sure you grab the right one. You'll be able to tell because the locking tab here has to go this way and the JKS should be level. So if it was the other way around, it like kicks it back at a weird angle, so it would be pretty obvious. Also need bolt pack 768. So that's going to give you some 1/4 20 fasteners, your bolt, nut, and 2 washers. So that's how we're going to attach these guys together. So we'll go ahead and install those guys here. And then just for the sake of it, I'm going to go ahead and pull this fastener out just so I can get it kind of located in its place, just to make sure everything's lined up before I tighten up on this end here. Alright, that, gonna put a backing wrench on, tighten it up from the front. Just like that. So, I'll take this guy back off because I'll need to be able to make sure the axle can droop for later. And then go ahead and repeat that on the other side. If you've already got your shocks in and you already have your sway bars hooked up, then you can go ahead and install that guy right away. And then you'll also finish up with this little push pin here as well. So yeah, so repeat the other side. Alright, so I was just lifting up the rear axle because I was about to start working on getting the lower control arms out. And as I was raising, I noticed that the track bar link got really close to being aligned, so I think I'll be able to actually install this right now without having to wait till I get on the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this will be a 22 millimeter. Again, I don't have that big of a wrench, so I'm just going to use that guy there. And this guy's going to be torqued down to 110 foot-pounds. So again, I'm going to torque this to 100 as close as I can get it with my torque wrench. And then we'll check that torque later when I get the tool rental. Alright, there's 100. So, like I said, we'll just come back and check for 110 when we get that tool. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start on doing these guys. So it's 21 millimeter, so we'll go ahead and start off getting these guys loosened up. Alright, just simple as that. So, one thing I just want to look at real quick is a comparison of these two. So, look at how much bigger that is. Things, I'm not sure, it almost looks like it's twice the size, but nice and beefy, a little bit bigger joints too, so should do good. And we're going to install this guy with the J-link out. So, we're going to start off with the frame side here. We're going to install our bolt and flag nut. All right, then again for these guys, we're gonna be going to 125 foot-pounds, but again, like I said, I'll just be hitting 100. All right, there's 100. So that is it. So we'll just go ahead and repeat that on the other side, and we're good with the control arms. All right, guys, so just finished up getting the Jeep, or the rear end, back on the ground with the tires on. So finally at ride height. Got everything all bolted up. We'll go and take a look underneath here real quick. So got the track bar on. We got the brake lines. I decided to hook those up to the frame just to keep them out of the way. And then we got wheels on, so everything else is bolted up, but the sway bar and the shocks. Just wanted to give you guys a quick peek underneath real quick. And we'll go ahead and take a look from the side over here. So that is where she sits. So she's got a pretty decent little rake to her right now, but that is a whole lot more clearance. That is going to wrap it up for part 1 of the JKS JSPEC J-Konnect 3.5 inch suspension system unboxing and rear suspension install. Stay tuned for part 2, where I will be installing the front suspension, shocks, and the rear sway bar links. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave me comments or questions, and I appreciate any feedback to help improve my videos. We are VictorVectorJKU, and we're taking on this build and the trail with both direction and magnitude. Have a great day, guys. Catch you next time.